Because real change comes from awareness, not from aggression. Again, we're shifting away from old-fashioned mantras, old-fashioned approaches and mindset, a bit like stretching. We're moving with the times, and we're working with a more intelligent, nurturing kind approach for our incredibly intelligent system that we have. Hello and welcome back. Now, just before we get started, if you're watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, please could you like, share, subscribe and press the notification bell so you'll be always updated when I drop an episode out. And also keep looking out for those little soma seeds, those little episodes that are going out in between these longer ones, just little extra seeds. I'm just scattering them around so you just get an extra dose of Total Somatics. So again, please let me know of any other interest that you want me to bring out in those little soma seeds and I'll share that with you. Okay, so today we're going to be considering, and really we're going to be busting that myth of no pain, no gain. It's an old mantra that's been around for many years. You may have heard about it in the fitness industry. It's used in a lot of areas of life, and it's like you've got to push through the pain to the point of almost vomiting or feeling sick. This is supposed to be to get results. Well, we now can say that that's actually not a really healthy approach to take, and we're going to consider why that's not the case. So the old mantra has really caused more harm than good for many, many people over the years, because pain is your body's way of communicating that something may be not right or something's changed, something's different. And in total somatics, that's what I do is I'm teaching you to listen, to observe, to notice exactly what's happening. We don't want to be pushing through that information, but we don't want it to make us apprehensive or anxious about moving. So when we listen and we become attentive, we're becoming embodied, which means we're really sensing and feeling what's happening from the inside out. And with all the knowledge and information that I'll share with you within the Total Somatics membership, what that does is the information will also give you the confidence with the skills that you're going to learn of how you can manage this situation when you have pain or other sensory feedback that comes into your life. Because again, we're not wanting to push through the pain. We're wanting to notice and see what we can do to work with that sensation. See, when you override pain, when you push through the pain, you're actually reinforcing muscular patterns of tension and tightness, and you're keeping your nervous system in a very stressed state. So that stress state can show up in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response mode. So you can either be like high functioning anxiety, go, 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 or you can go into collapse and withdraw and just tighten and be like shallow breathing, very small posture. So you can go either way of that spectrum, because when you're pushing through the pain, again, it evokes this stress response. So in total somatics, I'm teaching you how to work with your beautiful, intelligent body, not pushing or working against it. Remember, this is true embodiment. We wanted to work intelligently and to get really aware of all those subtle cues and nuances that we have, because real change comes from awareness, not from aggression. Again, we're shifting away from old-fashioned mantras, old-fashioned approaches and mindset, a bit like stretching. We're moving with the times, and we're working with a more intelligent, nurturing kind approach for our incredibly intelligent system that we have. Now, we don't want to be stretching, we don't want to be straining, we don't want to be sweating to create deep transformations. We don't want to be pushing through all of this to create a release in tension, tightness, and pain. We don't want to be doing that. We don't want to be straining and sweating and breathing through the pain. That's why when I teach with Total Somatics, I teach you a lot to do with mindset and mindfulness too, because the skills and the techniques, they marry together with your clinical somatic movement practice and your pandiculation. And that's why the online Total Somatics membership is so powerful, so beneficial, because wherever you live in the world, you can access those on-demand classes, on-demand tutorials. There's so many resources there You can just watch them at your leisure. It's almost like a Netflix for somatics, basically. But I'm also within the membership answering your questions and doing regular Q&A sessions that if you can't watch live for whatever reason, you will be sent the replay, but you still have plenty of opportunities to send me your questions and I'll cover them for you and help you get the most out of the Total Somatics membership. So you see, what we're doing here is we are approaching your health and well-being with a very healthy mindset, and that is to work intelligently with, not against, your pain. We're going to look at how we can work in these areas, and when we work in a gentle, nurturing manner, we are reducing hormones such as cortisol, which when we push through pain, when we are over efforting, we can spike our cortisol. That changes the pH in your body. It also creates a lot more inflammation and it creates more pain. It changes your hormones. It affects your sleep. So again, we are wanting to create regulations, resilience, and we want to recalibrate your nervous system. So we can find at times that when we have this headspace or this mindset of pushing through the pain or no pain, no gain, we can bring that approach into our practice, our somatic movement practice. We can bring it into our pandiculations. And that's why I'm there supporting you every step of the way, because we can fall back into our default or our old habits of over efforting or just pushing through the pain, or going back into a headspace of thinking we've got to stretch to get results. Whereas what we're doing is working with your neuromuscular system, and we're working in a very holistic global approach. And you see, the thing is, there is so much wisdom in gentleness. We've just lost that. We've lost that approach because people have just pushed over the years. But there is wisdom in gentleness. And your soma knows how to respond beautifully to when we are gentle and nurturing with our entire system. It works really well when we're gentle, we're kind, we're curious with our practice. And remember, healing doesn't have to hurt. We can make progress by being gentle, by doing these little steps and working with our bone structure, with our medical history, with our muscular history. Everything we work unique to what we need. And that's why Total Somatics is so powerful. So please take that thought with you, that in this situation, it's about kindness, nurturing, curiosity, gentleness. As we move forward throughout the day, notice how having that gentle approach has much more of a nurturing, kind resilience to our nervous system. Maybe it's something that we grew up with, thinking that we had to push through things, or there was an aggressive headspace or mindset or focus. So we're having to flick the switch of that default that's in our headspace or our internal narrative to take more care of ourselves. Maybe it was a belief system that you were taught when you were younger, that it was self-indulgent or navel gazing to spend time on yourself, self-care and nurturing. See, those are the sort of hurdles that we're sometimes having to push through, or not always push through because we want to move away from that pushing, but we want to approach and see how we can just take a little bit of a pivot and divert in a different direction. So again, be gentle on yourself, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. Sometimes we can be our harshest critics up here, and that translates into not only how we hold ourselves, how we move, how we breathe, but also how we approach our daily activities. Maybe again, that's where we go back into that pushing through this and breathing through a stretch and through the pain. So again, we're shifting away from stretching, sweating and straining to get healthy long-term results with clinical somatic movement and pandiculation using Total Somatics. So I would love you to join me within the Total Somatics membership. If you go to totalsomatics.com, click on the Join Now page. If the doors are closed, leave your details there in the little white box, or whatever colour the box is at the moment, and then we will get back to you as soon as we open the membership doors. So until next time, I'm sending you all my love, all my very best wishes, and hopefully you can feel my big tight hug through the airways wherever you're listening or watching this around the world. So until next time, all my love, take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.